Stop scrolling because the next Mac Mini may be nothing like the upgrade everyone expected. For months, the prediction was simple. Apple takes the tiny M4 Mac Mini, drops an M5 chip inside, keeps the same design, and calls it a day. But the latest reporting has introduced a more interesting possibility. Apple is reportedly testing a new Mac Mini with the M5 Pro and surprisingly the next generation M6 chip. That means the standard M5 Mac Mini many people have been waiting for could be skipped entirely. And if that happens, Apple may be preparing a strange Mac Mini update we have seen in years. Welcome to TechVibe. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you will know what is confirmed, what is rumored, what the performance jump could actually mean, and whether buying a Mac Mini right now could be a mistake. First, separate facts from speculation. Apple has not officially announced the next Mac Mini. The current model uses the M4 and M4 Pro chips, and Apple's compact desktop remains built around the redesigned 5x5-inch enclosure introduced with the 2024 generation. That machine already delivered a major upgrade: a smaller body, front-facing USB-C ports, HDMI, Ethernet, and powerful Apple Silicon in a desktop that can disappear on your desk. So if you are expecting another dramatic redesign, current reporting does not point in that direction. The next Mac Mini is expected to focus mainly on what is inside. This is where things get interesting. The M5 chip already exists. Apple introduced it in the 14-inch MacBook Pro, and the architecture gives us a preview of what an M5 class Mac Mini could deliver. The base M5 has a 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU, a 16-core neural engine, and 153 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. Apple also added neural accelerators to the GPU cores, making on-device AI workloads a bigger part of the story. In Apple's own testing on the M5 MacBook Pro, the company claimed up to 20% faster multi-threaded CPU performance than M4, up to 1.6 times faster graphics in professional apps, and dramatically higher performance in certain AI workloads. Those numbers come from a laptop, so you should not automatically assume an unreleased Mac Mini would produce identical results. But they do tell us where Apple is pushing its silicon: stronger graphics, faster local AI, and better performance per watt rather than simply chasing higher clock speeds. Now imagine that capability in a Mac Mini with desktop cooling and no battery limitations. For creators, that could mean smoother 4K editing, faster exports, quicker photo processing, more responsive motion graphics, and better performance in GPU-accelerated applications. For developers, faster code compilation and local testing could make the Mini an even more attractive workstation. And for people experimenting with local language models and generative AI, the combination of unified memory and improved neural hardware could be one of the biggest reasons to upgrade. But here is the twist you need to remember. Recent reporting from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, relayed by multiple Apple-focused publications, says Apple is testing Mac Mini configurations using M5 Pro and base M6 chips. Not M5 and M5 Pro, M6 and M5 Pro. If Apple actually ships that combination, the lineup would look unusual. The more affordable model could use a newer generation M6, while the higher-end configuration could keep the older generation M5 Pro because Apple reportedly does not plan to make an M6 Pro. That sounds confusing, but Apple has already shown that chip generation numbers do not always need to match across a product family. The important question would be real performance, memory bandwidth, GPU capability, ports, and price. The M5 Pro is already a serious chip. Apple says it supports up to 64 gigabytes of unified memory and up to 307 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. In the latest MacBook Pro generation, Apple says M5 Pro can deliver major gains in AI, graphics, and professional workloads compared with M4 Pro. If that chip reaches the Mac Mini, it could push the small desktop even further into territory, once reserved for much larger workstations. Connectivity could also become an important upgrade, especially on the Pro model. The current M4 Pro Mac Mini already supports Thunderbolt 5, while the regular M4 version uses Thunderbolt 4. Apple's newer professional Macs also include its N1 wireless chip with Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 6. Apple has not confirmed those wireless upgrades for a future Mac Mini, so treat them as possibilities, not promises. But bringing newer connectivity to the Mini would make sense for a machine designed to remain on a desk for years. Then there is memory and storage. This is probably the least exciting part of any Apple computer until you actually buy one. The current Mac Mini can be configured with substantially more memory and storage than the entry configuration, but Apple upgrades become expensive quickly. A future model with stronger AI positioning would benefit enormously from generous unified memory, because local AI models can consume huge amounts of RAM. If Apple keeps lower memory tiers too limited, the chip may be fast while the configuration becomes the bottleneck. Pricing is another major unknown. Do not trust any video claiming a confirmed launch price right now, because Apple has not announced one. The safest expectation is that Apple will try to keep the Mac Mini positioned as the most accessible way into a desktop Mac, but component costs, memory supply, and configuration changes could affect the final number. Release timing is equally uncertain. Earlier reports pointed toward a Mac Mini refresh in 2026, but more recent information says timing may depend on memory chip supply, so an announcement could arrive later than enthusiasts originally expected. Until Apple sends invitations, publishes a newsroom release, or updates its store, any exact launch date should be treated as speculation. So should you wait? If you already own an M4 Mac Mini and your workflow is running perfectly, there is very little reason to panic upgrade. The M4 is still an extremely capable chip, and a faster processor does not suddenly make your current machine slow. If you own an Intel Mac Mini, an older Windows desktop, or an early M-series Mac, and you are planning a serious upgrade, waiting becomes more interesting. The next Mini could bring stronger AI performance, faster graphics, better memory bandwidth, and potentially an unusual M6 option. And if you are about to buy a Mac Mini today, the decision comes down to urgency. If you need a computer for work now, buy for the work you have now. Never lose months of productivity waiting for an unannounced product. But if your current computer is fine and you can comfortably wait, the next Mac Mini is close enough to Apple's active development cycle that watching the situation makes sense. The biggest story here is not simply Mac Mini gets faster. It is that Apple may be changing the expected chip roadmap underneath one of its most popular desktops. What started as an easy M5 upgrade story has turned into a possible M6 versus M5 Pro lineup, and that could make the next Mac Mini far more interesting than a routine spec bump. This is TechVibe, where we separate the real upgrades from the rumor noise. If Apple confirms the next Mac Mini, we will break down the specs, pricing, performance, and the one configuration that gives you the most value. Until then, remember this. Do not buy a future product based on imaginary specifications, but do not ignore the signals either. The tiny Mac could be preparing for a very big leap.